going on, Jerome? So your Minnesota Vikings and general manager Kwesi adofo-mensah have been working the phones, getting deals done, and Kwesi getting that second first-round pick from the Texans, sending a second-rounder and change, as well as a 2025 second-round pick to get back up to 23 and have that ammunition to make a move, find a groove on draft day, and find their quarterback of the future. Likely going to have to be in the top 4, maybe top 5, but the Vikings can certainly get that done, as they do now have the ammunition to get up into the stratosphere with the Commies at 2, or the Patriots at 3, or the Cardinals at 4, or the Chargers at 5, and his former guy, Jim Harbaugh. That's right. And so the Vikings, finding that quarterback of the future, it would be the coup de grace of this entire offseason, where they've completely flipped over the rooster, moved on from Kirk, moved on from Daniil, brought in a new influx of young, hungry talent, and the quarterback of the future, that's the exclamation point on this offseason. But there are going to be rivals to potentially move up. The Raiders will be in there to a degree, sure, but I think more notably the Giants at 6 and the Broncos at 12 are the places to watch for. And there's already been a lot of hype this week about the Broncos one move up. Stupid ass Sean Payton talked about it, and then there's been low-level rumblings from the NFL League meetings in Orlando this week. Scenic beachfront Orlando, about the Broncos trying to make a move up. Now, the Broncos moved on from Russ, and they had to take it on the chin with a lot of guaranteed cash as well as a lot of dead cap. You understand why they're desperate, because Sean Payton wants to get something going, and also our guy, Broncos general manager George Payton, I don't know how he still has a job. But also the Giants, who are sitting at the number 6 overall pick, things have been relatively quiet, but I think they are a legitimate threat to move up and potentially poop in the Vikings cornflakes, because the Giants, clearly don't have it with Daniel Jones, even though they paid him all that money. But they do also have a bit of a shorter putt getting up into the top 5 from 6, and that could be attractive to one of the teams moving down. But what can the Giants and the Broncos offer? So trading in the top 5, this is the trade chart of value from Rich Hill. Now, every single trade chart is different, and we could go through all 75,000 of them, like the Spielberger, or the Jimmy Johnson, or the modified Jimmy Johnson, or the updated Jimmy Johnson, or the new age Jimmy Johnson. But all right, so rough rule of thumb, if you want to get into the top 5, 2 is 2,600, 3 2,200, blah 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 blah. Right. So here is what the Vikings and the Giants and the Broncos currently have right meow. Now, this does not take into account future picks. Now, generally, future picks 1 year removed is going to be the middle value, like number 16 overall in the first round, and then the 2 years removed, so 2026 would be usually the last pick. That's roughly how they gauge future draft picks by rule of thumb. And also, you can throw in players too, but then that's unquantifiable, so I don't know. But as of right meow, for the 2024 draft, the Vikings have roughly 2,200 points. So, if they want to go full Ricky Williams and Mike Ditka, they get up to 3. But of course, factoring in future first rounders, that does factor in. But also, basically, you see on the Rich Hill chart, anything past like the 4th round is kind of worthless. All right, so the Vikings, they have 11 and 23, which equals beep bop 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 boop, just over 2K points total, and then the rest of the way, it's kind of peanuts with the 4th rounders, the 2 fifths, the 6 and 2 sevenths. Now also, the Giants and the Broncos have their future draft picks intact for the most part. So, first, second, third rounders are what matter when looking at future trades. The Vikings notably don't have a 2025 second round pick with the Texans, but of course that was part of the trade to get back into the first this year, which is extremely attractive. Now, why is the Vikings 2 first round picks more attractive than the other team's 1 first round pick? Well, even though the Giants have 6, yes, that is valuable, but in what is perceived as a very thick THICC and deep draft, especially in the top 40, having 2 bites at the apple does make some sense, as well as you get to use those picks now versus, hey, we'll see it in a year. And guess what? Maybe the team is good, so that pick isn't as valuable. But also, you look at the Giants and the Broncos like, maybe that team is bad, so maybe that future first rounder is kind of valuable. Even though the Vikings over-under is 6.5. Please, jelly beans. Take my jelly beans. No. But also, you look at the Giants. So the Giants did have 2 first-round picks from the Leonard Williams trade, except they sent one to Carolina to facilitate Brian Burns. So they do have the number 6 overall pick. That's 1,600 points. They do have a second and a third. So they got everything, according to Hoyle, up through the 7th round. For the Broncos, so remember, the Broncos don't have a second-rounder because of Russ. It's funny, man. So the Broncos are basically... They're basically the hanger on in this one, because they have the worst first round pick at 12. Well, worst initial first round pick. They don't have a second rounder, and basically, I mean, all they can do is package up future first rounders. Which do the Broncos have the appetite to do that? Considering what they just did with Russ in terms of giving up draft capital as well as paying him all that cash, I don't know if Walmart ownership has that in them. They're gonna have to run 17 blue light specials and roll back on some costs or something. Wait, wasn't blue light Kmart? Doesn't matter. But of course, as we know, maybe stupid ass Sean Payton is desperate at this point because he got boxed out by the Vikings for Sam Darnold, and he doesn't want to start Jarrett Stidham this season in the AFC West. Who knows at this point? But I do think that the Vikings do have the most to offer. Now, the trade charts aren't going to sync up with whatever trade goes down. I think the Vikings will be paying a premium here because by the chart, I mean, the Vikings could offer 11 and 23, and you'll roughly get up to 3. But I think that's going to cost more. I think that if the Vikings want to get up to 3 or 2, it's going to cost at minimum 3 first-round picks. I think 4 or 5 get a little bit more. Get a little bit more lenient, maybe it's 11, 23, and the future third in 2024, or a combination, because like we said, the Vikings do have a number of day 3 selections this year with 7. So maybe they could work something out there, but also it could be a leverage point, because what if it goes quarterback 1, 2, 3, and there's only one of the big 4, whether it's McCarthy, Daniels, or May, still remaining, and Arizona could definitely flex and leverage out because the Giants may want to get up from 6, or the Broncos may throw a Hail Mary trying to get up from 12, and they might offer 3 first rounders, including 2 in the future. And then same thing with the Chargers too, because they have a leverage spot, because they're one spot ahead of the Giants, and the Giants could look to swap picks just to make sure that they stay ahead of the Vikings in that scenario. And the Vikings would obviously want to leapfrog the Giants if the quarterback remaining is the guy. But the Vikings, they're in a great spot, because it's something that Kevin O'Connell talked about this week, something that Mark Wilf talked about this week too, is that even if the Vikings don't trade up, say that they get outmaneuvered by the Broncos or the Giants, or the Giants or the Broncos offer just an insane package to move up, and the Vikings don't want to pay that cost, they're fine. They're absolutely fine. Like we said, what is attractive about the Vikings' 2 first-round picks is exactly why they would want to keep them, because they are in the thick, THICC, of a very deep top 40 draft, and the Vikings, the top 10 selections could all be offense, theoretically. Quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle, teams going ham on them. So the Vikings could have their choice of defensive players. The Vikings could still get a quarterback at 23. So I think they got to make good. But if they want to move up, they do have the ammo to do it. And frankly, if the Broncos or the Giants move up, it's a spot where the Vikings, maybe they're outbid, but that's fine, because maybe they just want to pay that stupid premium and get all up there. But I think that, honestly, if the Vikings do want to move up, I think it'll be a spot where it'll be on the Vikings' terms, and they won't go over a cost. So kind of like that. Kind of like that, man. But your thoughts on our thoughts. Take a look at what the Broncos and the Giants could offer in a trade up compared to the Vikings. Let us know your thoughts on our thoughts in the comment section below. You guys know what to do. Skull production value.